Okay. Should be live. Yes or no? I don't know. it's a blank for me.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're live. So today is going to be a bit interesting. I have a guest again, but we're somewhat continuing my video about Qwik. More of we're continuing your video about Qwik or Solid or whatnot. So I titled this like Qwik and Reactivity. So we're going to go into reactivity like in general, because you have like a lot of opinions about it, but it's interesting to see how reactivity is going to be happening in this new like third generation of frameworks or whatever like Mishka calls it.
Yeah.
So I guess we're starting a bit late, so let's just go into it, and let's just try to start like a new Qwik project, or if you have existing one, we can continue with that one. And right, so let's create a store and let's see how that one is is
Okay.
going to be updated and serialized. I think that's the most kind of like interesting part of it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure. So, do we want to start from scratch or use the project I already have set up? I did
So
experiments in
what's
already.
inside of your project?
Well, this is just some project I copied from GitHub, and I think it was like a month ago, or no, like 2 weeks ago, something like that. So it's pretty up to date. Um, yeah, the links weren't working for Qwik City. It wasn't. It was refreshing the whole page when you click on the links when I think it wasn't supposed to. And I have heard somebody else say that they were having a problem with that too. So I'm not sure if that would help if we got an even more up to date version. I don't know if they have released anything in the last 2 weeks, but um, I don't think that. I mean, I'm not really interested in Qwik City as much as like Qwik itself, so I don't really care about that. Do you?
So in my project, I used Qwik City just because it kind of like fit my requirements kind of better. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not entirely sure like when where one starts and the other ends. It's like
Yeah.
it seems to be like they're working on a Qwik City as like the uh, environment where you could run it, because
Yes.
I don't know what's the alternative is.
Yeah. There isn't really one. Qwik is like a very um it's a very single purpose type of library. So it doesn't do routing or anything like that. So uh yeah, this is using Qwik City as well, and I
Mhm.
haven't cleaned it up from my last experiments,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't think it really matters whether it's using
I
Qwik
think we
City or
can
not.
just start like a new route, and it's not going to kind of like interfere, right?
Okay, let me get this started. This server. Uh, oops. I think. Do I need to? Let's see if this works. What was this?
I think they
Port.
have like a Vite port.
Yeah. Haven't. This is the only context I've used Vite in this and SolidJS. So, all right. So I've got. Oh yeah, this is what it looked like. I was thinking of Solid, the example I had for Solid, but
Mhm.
anyway,
So can you say again what was the problem with like routing?
routing. So when you click here, did you notice the whole page reloaded?
Isn't that the whole point?
Uh, no, they with Qwik City, there are two types of links. One is like a regular A tag, but then they have a
Mm-hmm.
link component
Mm.
where it just updates with inner HTML, like it sets inner HTML and then it boots up the new thing that's added, I think.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be like client-side routing.
Interesting. I haven't heard about that part.
Let me see if I can bring it up. Qwik City client routing. I don't think these results are. And this is from a while ago. They've done recent stuff. I read about this on their page somewhere.
Right. So I'm kind of comparing that to Astro and like Solid Start. And I think Qwik City for now is just MPA. I haven't heard about like their routing stuff, so it's interesting.
It should be able to, they said it's supposed to, well, they said it's easy to add, and then I think they actually added it, but it wasn't working for me.
Right.
So I don't really care as far as today, what I want to do, but honestly, I hate multi-page applications. I really hate them. Like if you look at I did this in my video, but you look at this, like click, load, click, load, click, load. It feels like if this were a single page app, I would assume that this is a very inefficient app, and it feels like it's overwhelming my computer, like when it's rendering.
Have you heard about Isles, which is kind of like Astro alternative or like Fresh alternative?
It's called Isles.
Yeah. So if you just like type in Google like ILES JS or like framework or something.
Okay. Isles framework.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So can you click through the docs and stuff and do the same experiment? You know
it's
funny
like
part?
1/3 the delay. There's still like a slight delay.
Yeah.
But it is much faster.
Yeah. So what it does is exactly kind of like what you described about like inner HTML. It uses turbolinks. So it's MPA, but it's just like you have like a small wrapper that just does this like inner HTML stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't really use reactivity or anything. It just goes to the server and asks for new HTML.
Yeah, it feels fine. Does it prefetch?
Because I have no idea. You would have to check.
I do feel like there's a slight delay when you click on them, but it's probably just like the JavaScript rendering thing. Right. I don't know.
There is probably like no JavaScript rendering, just like inner HTML.
Yeah. I meant like DOM rendering. Yeah, it's making the requests when I click, I think, right? That's what this is. It's fetching the page. Yeah, it is. So I notice it, but it's
so
not as much.
If Qwik talked something about this, they're probably talking about like, okay, we can add turbolinks eventually.
Yeah. I mean, and then they should be able to prefetch them. I don't know why they're not. Well, they can't prefetch these because I think they're reloading the entire page on these. Even in the menu.
Astro does the same thing. They also like don't use turbolinks, and that's why like Rich Harris, the author of Svelte, created this like short Twitter like video of like
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. I agreed with his tweet. I hate delays when you're going through things, and single page applications. I honestly, if it was one or the other, I would rather wait 3 seconds for the initial page load, and then for me to not be interrupted after that, for it to just be instant after that.
Right.
That's what I would prefer.
Yeah, but that's not third generation.
Yeah, it's not everything, but yeah, third generation should have both, in my opinion. I feel like what Mishko would classify, he would not classify Astro as third generation. It's sort of in between, and same with React server components. Something that's more server but not quite third generation. I think third generation can have the best of both worlds without much effort. I think that's the goal,
but not yet. Okay, so
anyway,
I didn't see you play with that, but that's what I want to try. So let's create a new route in Qwik City, and let's add just, I don't know, like state, like a counter, right?
So here are some routes. Okay, so that's a route parameter apparently. You can do brackets with ID. Let me
yeah, we just
do top level
can
route.
create a new one. Yeah, just like in routes, we can create a, I don't know, new dot tsx.
There's layout,
right?
Index. What do I create? I guess just index. So I will, and then I need to add it to. Let's see, where's the
so layout.
links?
I think I forgot which frameworks does it this way, but they're using kind of like implicit layouts. If like folder has a layout, it will use that one. If like the parent folder has a layout, they will use that one, and so on.
So where do I add a link?
Let's just create a file.
I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, in index or like in route. Yeah. Or new tests.
ASDF. I like ASDF.
That's great. Yeah, and let's create index JSX there. Okay, and let's just like manually navigate into it. We don't have to create like a navigation to that.
Yeah, that's what I figured. API, this seems like an easy one to copy.
Yep.
So let's see, I will just close all of these from previous experiments. Okay, and let's try this. Let's just see if it automatically adds that. Or no, ASDF is what.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
I think the server crashed. Yeah, what I hate about Vid is that it's like sometimes it just like crashes without any explanation.
You have to restart it. Fast starting, which is nice.
Sure.
Hey, yep, we're there.
Yeah.
So this isn't part of our component, I don't think. Or does it? No, it is.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to get rid of that. And this is, all right, this is our playground. I don't know what's up with this. My VS Code, I press tab and it doesn't know that this is like a 2-tab thing. So
right. So on the bottom, you have like spaces for, if you switch it to spaces 2, it should work fine. Do you see it? In your VS Code?
Here?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering why Prettier isn't automatically taking care of this, where they have a Prettier ignore. Where
I think you need to create like dot editor config or something like that. I never kind of like figured this out. So
there should be a Prettier file here. Oh, yes, no, there isn't Prettier here. Yeah. So I'm going to create.
Yeah, you can just. Oh, maybe that.
Let's see. Indent. What do you call it?
Is it
spaces?
Something.
Width.
Yeah, width.
Okay. Now it should.
It didn't pick it up. I still see like spaces 4. Yeah. You can change it manually. It will work in some.
Yeah, for now, but that really, really bugs me. Let's see.
Detect indentation from context. Maybe that one.
I mean, it's probably better than.
Yeah, spaces.
Yep, there we go. Good.
Great. Yeah, so let's create a
Okay.
store, as they call it in Qwik.
Use store, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, they have.
I should have prepared more.
They have copied React
Yeah, Mishka actually said
conventions.
that his initial hope was that he can use like just like React, like the whole React as a rendering engine.
Yeah. Yes. Let's see, dot value. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. He created Angular, so but he doesn't care at all
Do you
about
feel
the
like
developer
he
experience.
betrayed everyone, or why do you bring it up?
No, it's just funny to me that he created a developer experience that's like 95% React. It's funny to me.
That he wanted 100%. He just couldn't get it.
So I'm just adding a state change for fun. Oh, I'm used to Angular. It's actually on Qwik. Store.value.
By the way, like fair notice, I wrote like 0 lines of Angular. Like I have like no idea what the framework is.
Yeah, you're probably really proud of that, huh?
I mean, it felt like I dodged the bullet. It's like when I started doing web dev, Angular wasn't kind of like a thing. Right. So I think it's like on click $sign or something like that.
Oh yeah, because that's the point of Qwik, the lazy loading.
Right.
And the button needs to have something in it. So those are just basic. It's just, I don't know what the deal is with the style here, but it set it. And if we look at the network tab, let's refresh just so that there it is.
Yeah, there is actually
zoomed in enough here.
Something more interesting than the network tab.
What is it?
And if you look at like source code for the page, or like or the like elements, but you need to like refresh first or something like that. No. So like view page source.
Okay.
Right. So I think so. There is like some code that we create. There is some code that is just like there in the layout, but there is a kind of like part of the Qwik that is like I think it's like a script tag and type is Qwik something.
You're talking about the loader or whatever it's called.
No. I mean, there is a loader, but there is also like serialized state. So in RxJS, that would be like
bottom,
next state or something. Oh, yeah, Qwik. Qwik data.
So yeah, here's the loader. Qwik loader.
Okay.
Here it is.
qwik.js. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, JSON. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so, this is interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking, can we remove like layout so that it doesn't mess with our stuff? I think,
so it's not extra stuff.
Yeah. So if we can go to like root layout and just like remove everything but slot. No, it's like inside src routes, but it's the root from there. Yeah, a bit lower. Yeah, adapter, index, and layout.
Here.
Yeah. So let's remove everything except for the slot. Yeah. I think you need to balance some parentheses or something.
Why did it? Oh, because I only commented one thing at a time. Well, here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, let's try that and let's see how this changes.
Can you just refresh when you're looking at the source?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow, it's pretty empty here. Oh, I need a line wrap again. That's why. Okay, so this is the Qwik loader still, all this stuff down here. And then we've got body. Yeah, this is easier to read.
Yeah.
We got body here. What are all these comments?
So that basically. Okay. So I want to share a bit like history of Qwik. So when I first heard of Qwik, it was like basically like the slowest framework ever existing, because the point was to kind of like to show how it works and like not to make it quick. So it's like, okay. And the idea was that everything was serialized in line in HTML. So it was really kind of like close to how jQuery would work. And basically, instead of like all of the subscriptions getting serialized, you will have, I don't know, like ID that is like, okay, this thing that can have state. And you will have like different like ID that is like, okay, this component depends on that state. So what it created is that HTML was always containing the whole state of the app. And that means like at any point you could just copy HTML, install it into like a new window, and it will like continue working.
So does that mean you wouldn't need the quick loader?
I mean, it was kind of like in the same HTML. How do I say it? There was like no hydration step. I mean, Mishko says that there is no hydration step right now, but it's like, it's not really true. But at that point, like everything that was happening, it was always stored in HTML. So there were like kind of like closures,
like event handlers.
Yeah. So
okay.
I mean, the quick loader was doing something for like event handlers, but you can imagine it as like before jQuery even, like in your on click, you would write JavaScript column and like just like find this ID and like change this text to something else.
Yeah.
Do you like remember that style of web development?
Yes. That is what gave me the visceral reaction against React when I first saw it. Yes, like most people.
Yeah. So, but this was like illustrating his point about like, yeah, we don't have a hydration step. Everything is always there. In order to like do any change, any like event handler, anything, we'll already have everything like in HTML itself. And like on the server, they were running like browser emulators, and the server was doing exactly the same thing as the browser did. So that's why it was like, okay, the server returning HTML is no different than like browser using HTML. So that's why it was resumable. You could send this HTML around, and it was always in the same state. And obviously that like doesn't work because of like a performance and stuff. But you can imagine the idea is like, if you have this like click button that we added, right? You are clicking on the button, and just imagine it has on click like find like that text or like span or I forgot, and like and replace inner HTML to something. So it is kind of like resumability in its like basic form. it's you couldn't do more basic stuff than that. Everything in HTML, everything just has like IDs and like selectors, and if you need to make an event that changes like 10 things at the same time, they all are going to be like resolved through this selector, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting because I kind of think of this quick loader as the thing that does the resuming. So there's like work that has to be done to resume it. It's like, pressing the resume button.
Right.
When you're setting up all the handlers, like this makes sense to me. I get the appeal of like absolutely no, JavaScript and no booting at all or resuming, whatever.
Right. But it's basically
it's kind of weird.
Too slow, because if any Qwik requires you to go through the whole DOM and to find all the subscription and all of that, like through the selectors, through the like DOM operations, like reading DOM, which causes like repainting and all of that stuff. So it's like, it wasn't the way. So that's why now it has to be stored in this like file, and it actually kind of like gets resumed, and it's actually kind of hydrates. He doesn't like to call it this, but
it's not really hydration. I don't know what to call it. Hydration to me feels like it's adding something. It's more like it starts listening. So I guess it's adding click handlers or event handlers, but
that's kind of like the definition of hydration in my mind. So
the way
I just want to finish kind of like So there are two interesting parts here. So first is like, why do we have all of those comments? So all of those comments are needed to connect things. It's like, okay, our subscription like thing starts here. Our like thing that could cause an event starts here. So all of this is kind of like just to hydrate again, just to explain where all the event listeners should go, where all the like components start and end, so that it knows what to update, what to re-render, and all that stuff.
I thought that was just supposed to be like part of this, like because you got IDs here. So this is the button element
most of
itself.
It is, so like onClick is going to be like through this lazy load that kind of like script tag. Or like module, I guess. If you go to like solid, it will have all the like IDs, especially it's used for like streaming there. So anyway, so the other interesting thing, so if you can open the browser again where the app was, if you refresh it, you can actually see this Qwik.json there. Do you see it? A bit lower. Yeah. So now click on the button, like in the app. Right. You see it disappeared?
Yeah.
People would call this that the app has hydrated. So like this quick loader, it waits basically for interactions. And if there are no interactions, it will not load any more JavaScript. And and that's why it doesn't need to restore all the data that was serialized on the server. And again, this is kind of like lazy step. If we add like, I don't know, set timeout or something in the code, that will cause like code to hydrate without interactions, that will happen. But in this like simple state, Qwik is saying, okay, we can delay that at the latest possible point, and the latest possible point is when someone clicks on it. Right. So, and they have like actually like a command that allows you to, I forgot the name, but it's like something like qwik dot what's the opposite of hydrate? Dehydrate. Pause. Yeah. So you can type like qwik.pause, and it will actually create that quick load quick JSON like element back. I don't know what exactly to type, but I'm just saying that it's like, instead of storing everything all the time in HTML, now they have something like Qwik, but I don't remember the name. This one is like built into Chrome, so I think
right.
Yeah, I think you need to like add some kind of like flag or something. I just don't remember that part, but it's kind of like,
then it'll add it back.
Right. So
JSON.
So if you refresh it again, let's try to kind of like look what got serialized.
Like the JSON itself?
Yeah. I think you like formatted
it down here.
Yeah. So
is this useful? Should I go back to the browser?
I don't remember. So some of this stuff is like the state that we stored in our counter. So let's store, instead of like 0, let's set like 1, 2, 3 or something, so we can actually like understand which one of this.
So what's different?
Yeah.
Here's this.
So 0, 6, and
here's the second one. So 0, 5, 6. Where's our 1, 2, 3? Oh, there's that. But ooh, it's in an array. Interesting. That's real. I didn't expect that. Is this reminds me of like hooks, because the order matters with hooks, React hooks, you know?
I see.
What if the order that you call use store in is where, let's try this. Let's do another store. And do 2, 3, 4. And
I wonder if we are not using it, it will probably like just not create it at all.
that actually is probably true. It shouldn't. I mean, I can double check that, but I mean, this should be identical. This is 33 to 60. Oops. Dang it, that didn't actually copy. Now it's broken. I feel like I lost that experiment because...
Oh, I think it's fine. It's recorded anyway, so people can rewind.
Yeah, and see if there was anything in there. I don't think there would be. I think it's too smart to do that. All right, now, so that's being used, so it should definitely be in here now. Why didn't that?
Yeah, I already see it, like 1, 2, 3, comma 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, we can just see it in here.
Right.
Where's the 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, it's kind of like a bit like a link. Yeah, this one. Yeah, just on the right. A bit higher.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. So yep, it's got.
So now the question: what if we put, I don't know, like a promise there instead of like 2, 3, 4? It's, I don't know, like new promise.resolve. I don't know, like.
I see that. 3. Yeah, it's the order that they were called in.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with how they're used. It's literally like, that's interesting. So it's running through, it's rendering,
right,
and then it keeps track of when things are called. So this component, I'm sure, that's gotta be this right here, right? Yep, ASDF component.
Right. So components in Qwik, they basically produce 3 kinds of kind of like code. So it's like render code, event handlers, and I forgot. And some kind of like subscription stuff. So if you're leasing for like other stores, there's like a separate kind of like bundle for that.
Yeah.
In React, for example, everything is kind of like inside of render function. Everything that you can write, everything that you can like read, everything that you can like render, everything is the same thing. But Qwik goes kind of like extra mile, trying to pick everything apart.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's try to put like a promise there.
A promise. How? What do you mean?
So instead of like 1, 2, 3, or I mean, instead of 2, 3, 4, probably just write like a new promise.resolve or something like that. I forgot the exact code.
Yeah.
Promise.
I don't think.
Or
how do you create it?
Promise.resolve.
Oops, sorry. Promise.
Or you can create
can you just
like
call
a sync
that directly?
function. Yeah.
You can call it directly.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
2, 3,
great.
4.
Oh, that's so nice. I haven't used I have shunned promises for a long time.
I mean, if you're using RxJS, you don't have to. There's like dot to promise.
Yeah, every time I see promise in Angular code, I'm like, something's wrong here.
Okay,
I mean,
let's
it's not
refresh.
Not everybody agrees with that, but I thought I did. Oh, right, because it rendered. No, is this not asynchronous? It's just immediately returns.
Right. So I think what Qwik does is during the server rendering, it realized that the value is probably 234 and just like kind of like replaced it. So
rendering is async. Rendering occurs asynchronously. So if this is a promise, I don't know how it deals with the store. Yeah, is this asynchronous though? Like if I did like console log and then
it's almost asynchronous. So let's create like a sync function that returns 234.
this async await is also something that I haven't done a lot of.
Right. And let's just
like that.
Yeah, and let's just call that function instead of promise resolve, and let's see how that's going to work. Okay, it's complaining that. Oh, right. That's for bundler to kind of like to pick up apart.
Okay. Yeah, it just has 234 here.
So now let's not call the function. So let's just store like the async function.
Yes.
Did we crash anything?
Let's look at the server. Yeah, not rendered. Only primitive. Yeah. It's got to be serializable. What you store here.
Right. So so that's basically like kind of like one dimension of it. It's like there is like a thing that they call is like serializable, but there are like different contexts in which it could be serializable. So for example, if you return it back to I don't know, just like 234, like the value. But inside of onClick, we can call this get 234 function. So we can set like value equals to get to right. I think we need to. I mean, it's TypeScript error, so we can probably like just try to run it anyway.
It won't compile.
Yeah, Vite ignores all of that stuff. As far as I remember.
Tries to do it anyway?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's for faster development. Okay, let's try to click it. Okay.
Debugger.
It crashed in some way. Okay, let's figure it out. So only primitive objects can be stored in a store, but what if we don't store it in a store? What if we just call it like console log and call this promise?
Yeah, that should be fine. So you're talking about in the Qwik handler still, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Call it?
Yeah.
Or
it will return a promise, but yeah.
Yes, it will. Why is that highlighted? Oh.
Okay, let's restart it. Did we crash server again?
Yeah. Okay, and click promise fulfilled.
So you see that there are like contexts where we can serialize, kind of serialize, and kind of like can't serialize.
Yeah. Yeah, store values can be serialized. if we do like if we look at the lexical scope, I don't think it needs to serialize everything in the scope.
Right.
Do like
so the important part that okay, let's try that. Did you crash something again?
What would be the problem here? Let's go back here. This is long. Oh, it does need to serialize. Wait, what? Why is it trying to serialize this in lexical scope? So this is just a function.
Yeah, but
I mean,
the
obviously
difference is that like P is not exported, but like get234 is.
Right. Hang on. Why is that bothering me? I thought I learned this before. Why did I forget it? Is it the same thing I learned before? No, it should.
I think if we use...
if it's serialized. Oh, I didn't know that, I guess. If it's serializable, it can be returned and use lexical scope. But if it's not serializable, it has to be able to be referred to by being exported somewhere. Wow, interesting. So this is totally fine. And I bet it does just grab it from, use lexical scope.
And we will see it probably in that Qwik JSON.
Use lexical scope. Yeah, it's grabbing it there.
Yeah.
And then it, okay.
But in order to send it from the server, like that value, it would have to be inside of Qwik JSON that we see in like.
How does this look? Yeah, how does this look in? Oh, do we know how this would look in Qwik JSON?
Yeah.
Let's see. We got 1, 2, 3.
It's just a bit higher.
Oh, weird. Why? Oh, because it's so lexical scope will go right before the component.
Oops, I guess.
So we got lexical scope, and then the component, and then the store.
Yeah.
So let's add another one. I mean, let's do 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, good pattern to continue.
You are not using that value. I'm sure they're probably like skip it.
Oh yeah. Well, let's double check. Well, when would they put it in? I mean, I don't think they would put it anywhere. Yeah, they don't. So that's good. All right, then let's use it. Yep. Yeah. So it just takes the. Wow, interesting. So it.
I think
how do they do this?
Kind of like run later. That's why they're probably like lower in the order.
I don't think so. Because this function runs before this, but this is appearing before the functions run.
I mean, that function is probably what you have on line 70, where it like return. Like that's the render function, I think.
It's the component function.
So the component is doing kind of like multiple things. So
oh, I see. So you're passing a function to this function call.
Yeah.
Right. So in here, this is the render function. This is the component definition.
I don't think in Qwik they. I'm not 100% sure, but like components could be like setup functions or render functions. So like in Solid, it's always setup function, but in React, it's like always render function. I'm not entirely sure how Qwik handles that. I think it's more like a setup function than render function, but I haven't tested that.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be. Oh, right. It needs to be exported, so it can't be put in lexical scope. It has to be inside the component. I'm interested in how it refers to it anyway. So it's not going to be put in here.
Yes,
It is
probably.
a lazy loaded.
If you put it in
lazy
an
loaded.
effect, yeah.
Okay, so everything in lexical scope is put right before the component, but this can only be stuff that's in here. Once you export it, it handles it differently. It's not returned from lexical scope, right?
If you go into a store, for example.
Oops, where's the use lexical scope? Where does it call that? Oh, here. Yeah, it did not put it in lexical scope. Okay.
So if you use your P0 in store, like in hook, inside of an effect, you can put it in like a render function or in store, then the rules are going to be changing a bit.
Okay. Should I make another store? Or
sure.
Let's see. Is there any point? I think we can.
You can create like an array, like of all of them.
All the stores.
Yeah.
I'm fine just replacing store too.
Sure.
It has served its purpose. So hey, there it is. Well,
so now it changed
different
when it's going to be needed. If you only use it in event handler, unless this event happens, you don't need this value.
Yeah.
Right. So going back to like, how do we know if this is like a render function or a setup function? The easiest way I know is just to add console log inside of a render function, instead of like component. And here, let's just call it like re-render.
People put dashes in this still?
I have no idea.
Words usually go through the process. Everyone who's familiar with a word that's dashed ends up skipping the dash. So that's not, yeah, of course it's not going to run, but it's going to run when I hit this.
Yeah. And now the question is, if instead of like set to 1, we are like incrementing it, will it run multiple times? And it also run on the server. That's the resumable part.
Wait, you said to do what?
So in our button, let's like store value equals store value plus 1. So we can cause multiple re-renders. Yeah, store.value plus 1.
I don't think that will cause multiple re-renders.
I mean, you need to click multiple ones, multiple times.
Right. Okay. So there's one. Click again, runs once.
Right. So I think that's what Mishka was saying about like, yeah, when he started working on Qwik, React was like the hot thing, and it made sense to kind of like completely copy how rendering in React works. But now, since like Preact signals or like solid or kind of like view reactivity is a thing, and there you have like setup functions instead of render functions, that's where this console log will like stop rerunning.
Yeah.
But what they actually do is they use reactivity in not exactly like the solid way because of the render function, but more like kind of like in a view way. But the idea is that you can set up all the, how do I say it? Okay, so there is a guy in like Solid and Astro community, Dan Jutan, and he said, imagine React when you're writing like effect, you're basically opting out. You're passing the array of like, okay, like dependency array. I don't want this effect to run on every render, I want it to run only like when this changes. But in Solid, or in my mind, kind of like in Qwik, what you need is opt-in. You need to explain what things you are like following all the like changes off. Because you're like,
it's
okay,
funny. It's funny hearing you explain it like this, because to me the normal thing is the component doesn't re-render. Because in Angular, it's the permanent thing. Like once you set it up, it's there. Like why would you re-render it? It's change detection is the thing that's run on top of it, and Svelte's the same way. And Solid's the same. React is the weird one, even though it's really popular.
React is not weird if you are coming from server side. It's like it completely makes sense, and that's why it was created.
It's like you're refreshing everything.
Facebook is like PHP company. They're not thinking about everything in React terms, in like Angular terms.
They're not thinking of it in like JavaScript terms, because traditionally JavaScript, you do not refresh everything. React was radical. React, like you don't like. People thought it was crazy when it came out. Like, why would you re-render the entire app in JavaScript?
Top down. Your state is stored in like a Flux store that is like on the top of your component, and you're passing props to everything like all the way down.
That really, I didn't realize how big of a mindset change it was. But my first YouTube videos on this channel were me learning React. If you go back and watch my struggles, it was really funny. It took me so long to get it, for it to click. But in my head, like I'm a very visual thinker. So in my head, React, Angular, and normal websites, that like normal, where it's just HTML and then JavaScript on top. The way it works is that's what's there. That's permanent. And then JavaScript is like streams of water. So that's like the land. And then JavaScript is like streams of water, like dynamic things on top of it. And then with React, it felt like once it clicked, it felt like React is a river. Everything is always running. But then you get like useEffect and useState. Those are like little rocks that are sticking out of the river, where you can achieve permanence between renders. So that's in my mind. And Qwik is more like React, the way it is right now.
Right. So in terms of
constant
reactivity, if you want to add like effect in Qwik, you have to basically like manually subscribe which things you're tracking in order for effect to trigger. So in this way, it's like the setting up like stores and effects is reactive, but rendering is like this render function, kind of like React style.
It's like a weird mixture.
It's not that weird.
Very
like Vue does this.
Does Vue re-render the entire component?
I think they have like a mode for that, as far as I remember.
They have a mode for everything. So they got React mode.
I think so. I could be wrong. I didn't do like enough Vue to know that, but I think when you're using like JSX with Vue, it kind of like similar like that. Yeah. So this track function, like it will mark what reactive parts we are opting in. We're starting to listen for changes. We're like subscribing to observers and all of that stuff, instead of kind of like preserving our state compared to the like previous version that React does.
I don't fully understand how track works or what they could have done instead.
Right. So
obviously they could do like a solid like signal instead.
So let's put that re-render like console log. Let's put kind of like, I mean, we should keep re-render. Let's call it like effect, I guess. I just like rerunning effect, something like that.
Put the name of the function there.
Yeah. So now let's see when this happens.
Well, it won't. Oh, client effect, because it's supposed to run as soon as the client loads.
Yeah.
So does this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it caused it to set up all the listeners or to get rid
To
of the
hydrate.
JSON. So hydrate, right? That's weird to me, because why? Yeah, why does it disappear? Obviously, it looks like it's hydrating, but he insists that there is no hydration.
Right.
So, okay, so actually, it converts the JSON into JavaScript memory. So, like listeners and things.
Yeah,
I think that's
it
what's
basically
happening.
like it deserializes stuff. So instead of like just string, it has like an object now that stores all the like stores and all of that stuff.
Yeah, you could store that information in the HTML.
Yeah, you can store it back because
still
all
have
of the
quick
rules
loader.
are still there. And
Yeah,
that's what it
it's
does
just faster.
on qwik.pause or something like that. So now let's change the state and let's see if this effect will rerun.
Yeah.
No. I mean, in the app, let's click on the button.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. So we see re-rendering, but the effect didn't run, and that's why you need track
until we run track.
Yeah.
So track is the equivalent to that dependency array.
No, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Is like, no, it's not. It's equivalent to subscribing to observable.
What do I call this?
You don't have to call it anything. You just like call the track function with the name of the thing that you're. The const is the extra stuff that you don't need.
What should I name that value?
Does track return anything?
Yeah, this is how I think this is how you use it. I might be thinking of solid somehow. No,
let's
solid.
try.
You just use it.
I didn't use this way, so it's fine for me.
It does return it. Yeah.
Right, and now if we click on the thing, on the like set to one.
There we go.
Right. So
we added one. Yeah.
So we subscribe to this store. If we have like two stores and we're changing two stores, it will only react to the one that we subscribe to.
Okay,
and you can actually
wondering though. This runs on the server.
No.
Initially, right?
The client effect doesn't, but you can. There is one that can run on both.
Yeah, use watch, but okay. So this doesn't matter.
Right. So now the question is,
because I kind of you said it's kind of like RxJS.
Yeah.
But Mishko said that RxJS can't be serialized. So if it's
and I want to get there. So can we add to this console log our get 234 promise? Huh?
Call it.
I mean, this doesn't matter.
Okay. Client effect. It's the whole function. Yeah.
So it was able to send it over, and we can look at the like JavaScript code. There is we can't look at the Qwik.json anymore, but we can see how it got this value. It just like it imported it because we have an export for it. So now the tricky question is like, okay, can get 234 instead of returning a promise? Can it return RxJS observable?
It should.
Okay.
But is that good enough? Because I mean, we might as well just try it. I think I already installed RxJS, so let's just do of,
or like behavior subject, or like whatever the thing that you want to try.
Oh, I didn't install RxJS. It'll be version 7 probably.
You're like old school. You still write -s.
I don't really. I've never bothered to learn the shortcut.
Yeah, I think it now it saves it automatically since
Default.
like version.
Okay, good.
10, 12, I forgot. I don't use npm, so I don't really know.
Okay. Oh, dependencies. RxJS. So it's a client dependency. Is that the right place to save it? Because I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I assume in Qwik you'd want to save everything in dev dependencies because it will grab it.
I never.
It will
use
grab
that
it
part
on server side. Okay. I mean, it's an observable, so.
Okay. Can we subscribe to it? Can we make it like a timer that ticks every second?
Like, how do we use it in a store? Is what you're asking, right?
That's the second part. So
I mean, yeah, we can fully use it here if we.
Sure.
Let's see where.
So instead of like off, let's do like timer or something.
So, dang it.
You can rename to proper things.
I'm gonna call it $. Okay, so subscribe. Okay, oops. Okay, yeah, I probably should have just called that N. I'll call it N. Okay, and then I wonder about unsubscribing. So cleanup, is that? That's probably passed in here.
Not worry about that. Oh, okay. If it's there, it's there.
You know, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I think that should work.
Okay, and so every time the store runs,
we should add like
the store's updated.
So on line 63, instead of like returning a value, let's return like a timer.
Interval, maybe.
Yeah.
And that continuously.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's do every second. Yeah, set up the subscription.
Right.
If I click, it will start over at 0.
It should.
Oh, it didn't clean up. It's probably some kind of stupid scope thing. So I will.
Or maybe cleanup passes like a argument or something.
Yeah, that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it unsubscribed. Now it's adding it again.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we are not showing it anywhere, right?
Yes.
So let's store it back to the store.
Yeah, we can do that. And it will. Yep. Oh, whoa. Oh, because we're watching that and it's unsubscribing every time.
Destroying?
So
yeah. We need to untrack it. No. So let's go back. Let's just untrack the value. Yeah, let's just remove this line.
So immediately after subscribing?
No, let's just remove this line.
This one?
Yeah. And just we don't. Yeah. I mean.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter. We could have just used store 2, and it crashed again.
Yeah.
Not allowed. Oh, there we go. Okay, it just took a second to. Yeah, so there it's re-rendering all the time. Yeah,
right.
And it's just gonna run once because we're not tracking.
So let's just try to understand what happened.
Walk through it. So first this runs, sets up the initial value of the store. This is running on the server. It's serializing this. When it gets to the client, it has the reference to and $, because we have it exported.
Mm-hmm.
So this will run immediately because it's a client effect. And so it imports. Is this an import? I don't think it's.
Yeah. We can look at this source code.
Should we do that now?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's $. It doesn't know that it needs
but
it.
In that one, we can actually look at the Qwik JSON because like source code. Oops. I dropped something. We can actually see here now the kind of like data that actually kind of like tried to save.
Yeah, there's no $$ in here.
We expect
not
to see there basically like anything related to RxJS.
Won't be anything.
Yeah.
Interval, no $.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is going to be lazily imported, even though it's used inside a client effect.
And it's used right away.
Yes. So, I mean, that's not ideal, but whatever. Right. So, yeah, once this runs, it sets up the subscription that gets RxJS doing what it does best, emitting values.
Yeah.
And then it sets it to the store. Every time this runs, it re-renders the component, but this doesn't run again because we're not tracking the store.
Right. So in our render function, it doesn't have like a link to $. So let's try on like line 68 if you do like re-render $.
Fun.
Yeah, that's it. It's just like we are trying to put RxJS inside of render function, and let's see how.
So you're just sneaking up on. I see what you're doing. Okay, so you're just trying to sneak up on using RxJS. Re-render, yeah, it's just gonna. Yep.
Yeah, because this stuff is like exported and all of that stuff. It okay, I lost train of thought. So
yeah, it's importing it immediately with the component as soon as it re-renders the first time.
Yeah. So we can't put $sign inside of render function. We can't like
use it,
cut it out from the line 63 and put it inside of like lexical scope, because that's like not serializable. Huh?
Yeah, but it would also redefine it every render.
Yeah, that's fine. You can have like use state or like use ref or something that to preserve it between
use
renders.
Ref would work, yeah,
but it's not serializable.
Yeah, so you can't use it in lexical scope and you can't use it in a store.
Right. But you can still like import it from a file. So it's no longer like local to this component. It's global. But you can make maybe like a generator that that creates like a new one for each component, something like that. If you wanna have like separate ones. But
that's fine.
Yeah, it's just like what Qwik's innovation is this fine-grained, lazy loadable, like serializable functions. Because component is a function, but this function it's sent over the like JSON objects and all that stuff. But you can always import something from like other module, and you can even import it from the same file, but it's going to be like created into like a separate module. So you can actually use RxJS, but you can't serialize it. And so what's the problem with like trying to serialize it? And I think Qwik serializes promises in some cases. I haven't kind of like got into it, but I remember just Mishko saying about about it. But you can always use the same trick as we did with RxJS, as like exporting it somewhere. But their kind of like cool innovation is this kind of like compiler, bundler, whatever they call it, that allows you to have serializable like components, basically.
Yeah.
And if those components have functions like onClick or something, or our like exported like RxJS values, those things, as long as you kind of like can put it in a module, that can also be sent, but just like lazily. So, and if we need to like render new text, we can always like just have like a store that we just like set the value of the store, and then Qwik can do its own magic and like try to find everyone who's subscribed to that store. But we can do any of RxJS magic on the kind of like on the way there. It's just the last part that subscribes. That part needs to use like value from
store. Yeah, Qwik store.
I mean,
yes.
Okay. I'm trying to okay. So basically, if all of our components will have their own kind of like ID, right?
Yeah,
ID is like serializable. It's just like number or like string. And if instead of like returning $, we have module that exports kind of like global state that has like ID and like RxJS observable, ID and like an RxJS observable. Are you following so far? We can probably cut
it. Yes. I understand everything you're saying. It clicked while you're talking. I get it. RxJS is fine. Yeah, I get what you're saying. The serializable part just needs to be what talks to the component.
Yeah.
Oh, I triggered Siri.
If you can, if you can serialize this ID, and you can serialize the part that actually like subscribes to this like Rx by ID thing, you can actually write RxJS code in Qwik without like any problems. The problem is going to be there once you're trying to combine multiple observables into the same thing. And that's where Mishko's kind of like problem with current state of reactivity is. That's why he reinvented his own kind of like reactivity. He says, okay, I can create kind of like global observables and like that are subscribed to like everything and everywhere all at once. But in order to serialize that or like hydrate that on the client, you need to basically like run everything to figure out what is subscribed to what. If RxJS could run on the server once, create a JSON object that explains what parts are subscribed to what, and you can kind of like just create your own observables, and you can actually do that. You can actually like track the subscriptions and save it as like IDs or something like that. Then you would be able to serialize RxJS in the same way as because it's the same reactivity. All of those stores are created, subscribed to each other, they're tracking the changes and all that stuff. It's just, Mishka said,
just passed up along really long streams with RxJS potentially, but you can do the exact same thing. I feel like he didn't try very hard with RxJS.
His idea was like, I don't care about RxJS anymore since I don't work at Angular anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't have to like create all of that stuff because it's going to be like a fork of RxJS. It's going to have like API of RxJS, for example, but the primitive observables would have to be written in a way where you can serialize subscriptions and like things that you are subscribed to and things that are listening to you, right? That's how RxJS works.
Yes. So I'm thinking about like I have a couple of thoughts in my mind. Um, I don't know if this is a goal, but I feel like you should be able to have. Okay, so let's say you have an app running somewhere, and then at some point you're going to pause it and resume it somewhere else.
Yeah,
So with Qwik in practice, usually it's like you run it once on the server, you take that and send it to the client.
yeah,
But it seems like the ideal is that you pause any app in whatever state it is, and then you put it somewhere else and you can resume it.
yeah,
So if looking from that perspective, you could have like an RxJS run app that has all these subscriptions running and going on, and then it's frozen. Um, but what it's frozen into is not RxJS subscriptions. It's like this reactive mechanism that he came
yeah.
up with.
I mean, it
Um,
doesn't have to be. It's like as long as you can create a JSON like object from it, it's fine. We can create
yeah,
this
yeah,
kind of
whatever.
stuff for RxJS as well.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, am I going to do that? I don't even think I need to. Because the way because this exists,
Yeah,
it's a way to represent
it's a
dependencies.
way to
So
hook
I think no matter,
into like
yeah,
um
quick serialization and re-rendering.
yeah, re-rendering. That's the like most important stuff, or like events, but events already kind of like work in this more. There are less limitations on events because they are already lazy imported from a module, and inside of module you can write whatever code you want. It's just when you're trying to use local scope inside those handlers, that's where you have to be like more cautious. And as long as you can, instead of like RxJS, like identity of the subscribe of the observable, you have like ID, string ID. It's fine. It will work.
Yeah, we did that earlier. So um, if so when so if you use this with RxJS, like traditional RxJS, when do the subscriptions get set up? Because you don't need subscriptions until something needs to happen.
Mhm.
Um, because like you could have a timer um, with like we have, and in that case you need to subscribe immediately, like with the client effect. But you could also have like an event that pushes to a subject or something.
Okay, so
Uh,
I think that's important thing to try out. Let's create a store that has something like is shown or something like that. So yeah, I don't know, is shown store. Visible, yeah, visibility or visible, yeah. So let's show false at first. And let's imagine that, like, I don't know, let's add a button, and unless you click that button, you don't see like our app. So if visible is false, return like a button. No, so like conditional rendering. So like on line 81. No.
Want to use this button
No,
for it?
no. So we can do it this way, but it's kind of like more illustrative if we do it another way.
What are you thinking?
Okay, so just cancel your few of your last changes.
What do you want the app to look like?
Okay, so go to line 80 and like just create a new uh just like if not visible return JSX. Yeah.
80?
So if visible
Uh,
value is false, or yeah, not visible value. Uh-huh. Yeah. And just return a button that is like show. Yeah. 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 So I think you have to do like visible.value. Otherwise, it's probably just like referring to the whole store. On line 82. No, in the if condition. Yeah. Right. So
Well, that's weird.
what will happen
Did
here
that go
is
away?
like, huh?
That's weird. Why is that?
Yeah,
Oh,
because
never,
it's
because
always, yeah.
that's weird. I didn't expect TypeScript to care about that. Okay.
Right. So
All right.
the thing is, unless we click on this show button, the like render, the other kind of like render function is just like not going to do anything. And we can actually see our like JSON. Oh no, we can see it right now. But okay, is it working? Have you clicked on it?
No,
It's not
I haven't
working?
clicked.
Okay, it's working. Right.
Yeah.
So now what I'm proposing is like, let's try to put that condition higher above client, whatever, use client effect. Yeah. So now we're basically doing even less stuff unless it's visible. Are you following so far?
Yeah. I didn't know you could do that. Is it okay to, because React would hate this, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's like a rule of hooks.
Out of order
And
conditional.
I don't know if that will work completely in Qwik, but there's like another way to do the same thing.
It's hating something. That's all I did.
Okay.
That's all I did, and it hates it. So
right. So what we can do instead?
Can't do that.
What we can do instead is like inside that useEffect, we can conditionally track. I mean, we don't need to conditionally track here, but we can.
Visible.
We can like early return if the visible. Yeah. Yeah, so value was fine.
Yeah, I'd rather do that.
Sure. Right. So like if not visible, like early return.
Yeah.
Yep.
But won't subscribe until it's visible.
I mean, in Solid you can do that like conditional effects. So
yeah, I saw that.
So now let's refresh and let's see if we see our like app hydrated. Like it actually did hydrate, so it actually like
because it had to run the client effect.
Yeah, that client effect. But there are like other ways to write it. I think I don't know right away, but I think you can do it.
I wonder if this is doing it on the server.
Yeah. It will try to do it on the server, but it's not visible on the server, so it's fine.
Oh no, I don't think it's subscribing.
Right, it's not subscribing because it's not visible. Yeah.
Good.
Right. So now click on the show,
and now
it's hydrated.
Yeah.
So when you said about like, okay, but we don't want to like create too many like subscriptions before like something happens, you can actually write like conditional subscriptions, and it's a bit easier to write it in Solid, but you can write it in any of the frameworks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you can even prevent any JavaScript from running at all until. Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to use Qwik's reactivity to trigger the very first stuff with RxJS. I mean, so every subject, every RxJS subject or behavior subject, you don't use those. You'd have to use these instead.
That's everything in RxJS kind of like hook into it.
Yeah, I mean, but there's no point of a subject if it's downstream. So yeah, so you'd use a store, and then every RxJS functionality, all of it will be downstream from stores. Okay, yeah, this is actually really, really easy to think about. This is kind of what I was thinking when I was like trying to summarize how RxJS and resumability would work like 15 minutes ago-ish. Yeah. So yeah, everything with RxJS can be paused until something happens. Like you don't need any RxJS. Like Qwik actually promises anything would work.
Yeah.
That whatever Qwik understands, it's like it provides one like async like gap where nothing in RxJS has to run. And then once you use Qwik to jump that gap to like trigger some effect where client-side JavaScript can run, then RxJS can set up after that. So yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, and you
Okay,
could
cool.
be kind of like as granular or as kind of like gross as you
So
want. If you want to like,
when you were
uh-huh.
watching my video, were you just like wishing that you could tell me this?
I mean, I didn't know that we could actually do all of that stuff because like I didn't try it myself, but I
Right.
was
So this is like
kind
a
of like,
proof of concept.
yeah, I was like hoping that it's possible.
Yeah, that's good. But so my plans, this is awesome, but my plans are still, I still want to create a version of my library that works without RxJS
Yeah.
because I think that React developers would like it more because um, RxJS is kind of its own thing. You have to think in a similar way no matter what. Like if you're using declarative hooks in React or Qwik or whatever, um, it's declarative thinking. And so like if you're debouncing a value or whatever, the way I want to encourage people to do it is declarative, like debounce value equals use debounce.
Yeah.
And so it actually looks a lot like RxJS.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, you know what?
So
I'm wondering.
RxJS, I basically have kind of like two comments on this. So first is that in React, it's actually not going to work as good as you hope because every so if you have like I don't know a pipeline out of 3 steps, for every step you would have to have a state, and state changes cause re-renders. So for
Yeah.
every new value, we will have like 3 re-renders.
Yeah, but that's how it would work no matter what. Like if you have a debounce value,
No,
you're
if
gonna
you
have two
have
re-renders.
a Rex pipeline and you're just using like the end result, it's going to be like one state and one re-render.
Even if
Kind of
it's
like
synchronous, you're
here,
saying.
So kind of like here, like we have like this n $ observable. You can do as many operations with that as you want. It
Yeah.
only will apply that changes to DOM once you do like store value equals something.
Yeah, ArcGIS is or React is the same.
Right. But if you're using it, if you're writing React in the same style as you would write RxJS, for every pipeline line, you will have a new state and you will like store it, and React will have to track it and all of that stuff.
It's opaque to React. React doesn't care about RxJS's internal state. So the
Right.
only time it would re-render is when
No.
you set state.
I'm talking about things like const debounced value equals use something.
Yeah.
If this debounced value is stored in a state, if it's not stored in a state, you can't react to this value. I mean,
right.
Okay, it could be written kind of like badly. That was that was my comment. And I forgot the second ones. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We actually
So
kind of like over
my
our time.
initial I'm enjoying this. I like this is why I wanted to set a time limit because it's hard to stop once you get started with stuff like this. So, but I propose an extension of 15 minutes. What do you think?
Okay. I'm fine.
All right. All right. So what was I saying?
So,
RxJS. Oh yeah, when I first started with RxJS in React, it was kind of a naive. And this is the way Ben Lesh does it too. It's a naive. It's like in React, everybody's talking about overusing useEffect now and how you shouldn't do it. The way that Ben Lesh and I, when we first, well, I don't know about him about his first attempt, but as far as I know, he's still, as of like a couple months ago, I think, he's like suggesting that when you subscribe to RxJS observables, you should set state and then you can use it in React.
Yeah.
But my mindset has changed after working in a React project for a couple months. And basically, the role for RxJS should just be limited to async stuff that happens before state is set. And then state is set with RxJS. And after that, everything's synchronous. So if you look at my React implementation of StateAdapt, let's see, React. The way I do it here is I've got this useObservable hook, and this sets state internally. And this is not a good way to do this anymore. Like, even it's actually more visible in my StateAdapt demo. Let's see, React app component app.tsx. So here I have a bunch of stores, and then I'm doing useObservable, and the state from the observable is coming out. This isn't the best way to do this in React.
Yeah.
What I need to do is have just like a selector, like call the selector function directly, because the state is already set. I just need to call the selector, and then it doesn't cause a re-render.
Right.
With the observable, even though,
but like
with React,
actually, on the line,
if it calls set state during a render, wait, when
on line 50,
state
54, you're using this value, right?
Yes. So a quick question. When React is rendering, if during rendering you call set state, that will trigger another re-render, right?
There is like a condition where you can safely call it. I'm not 100% sure. So it will cause the render like with the new state, but there is like a way to do that before
so maybe only re-renders the component.
Is changed.
So maybe it only re-renders the component, or I don't know how it works at all. But if I did like bold, so like if bold 6 equals something, set state. If I did something like this, that is, but set state, you said maybe there's a way to call this so it doesn't re-render?
So it will not re-render DOM, but it will re-render kind of like internal.
Oh. Okay, well that still sucks, but that's not so bad.
I don't remember where exactly this documented, but it's a kind of like a tricky thing, and it's kind of like last resort to do that. But I was going.
Yeah.
Can you show the file that you just had?
Just barely. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the line 54, you have like state 1. So
yeah,
if you want to show the state, the only kind of like way to show it in React is through state. So what's the alternative? Once you're subscribing to the changes that you want to commit to the DOM, you have to like tell React to do it. And the same way that we did in Qwik, like in order to update the counter, we need to have we need a way for Qwik to know that the counter has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, so with React, the subscription has to be moved from here to here, and I can just call full or not store. So if I grab store one? Store. Which one was I using? Store one.
Or one, yeah.
Full selectors state. This
Okay.
would be the right way to do this with React.
Okay.
Well, I'd have to internally make another like a getter basically, but anyway, yeah. So the same thing with Qwik. Everything has to start with a Qwik store. Like the click. Let's see.
I don't know if you're referring to like start to stop or like end, because that's the way to like output some data or like react to some event. What do you mean right now?
Well, I'm still I'm in between. I'm using my understanding of React to try to understand Qwik. So sorry if I keep jumping back to Qwik or React. But so this is a source, and this is state, and then any number of async things can happen between here and here that don't trigger re-renders. If you used an observable, like an observable pipe, we could add more on here, like delay 2 seconds, all kinds of stuff that's asynchronous, and none of that triggers re-renders. But then here, this creates a subscription, and then that will trigger all this. So start listening to this, or if it emits immediately, it'll get a value finally. So the role of RxJS would be before state gets set. But with here, we have to set state in order for any RxJS to react to anything, because we're not setting up subscriptions until Qwik loads our subscription, right?
Before we had this visible store, it was subscribing right away. So we don't have to do that part.
Well, I mean, it was. I mean, I would like to. That'd be the right way to do it, I think, because with Qwik, you want to delay the JavaScript from running.
But you could run it, and that's the thing that I tried in my stream is like, okay, can I just like put the whole React app inside of React instead of Qwik, and just like for this route, let's just download the whole thing anyway.
So I'm trying to remember what you did. Did you put Qwik inside? You put React inside Qwik, right?
Yeah, that was the plan. It didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, so if I'm thinking about like the ideal solution for this, these would like a store that would be like the event source or like a subject. This is what I would use as a store, and then I do something like use watch, because use watch, I don't even think use client effect runs immediately. Use watch does not,
right?
Until what it's tracking runs, which is fine. So that just means that the observable pipeline or whatever. No, this would be a subscription.
I actually have like few comments about RxJS. I want to note that I'm probably like the best person to talk about RxJS in React world, because everyone in React hates RxJS. we used RxJS with Redux observable package, because at the time that was basically like the only TypeScript safe kind of like way to work with like Redux asynchronous stuff. Everything else was like any. There was like nothing nothing type safe about it.
Oh, really? I remember that might have been why it was popular, but I remember people using it for non-TypeScript reasons.
Yeah. So I know like a lot about RxJS, but like not enough, and especially not in the context of like of using it for real, I mean. And that's the second comment of like, everything that you're describing is like, okay, we want to like fetch through RxJS, we want to like cancel once we're like navigating to something, all of that stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
right, except for the part that all the frameworks try to put that code into like their own hands. Even like Remix or Next.js, all of that stuff, they try not to use something like React Query. They're like, no, 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 no. Once you're like navigating there, our router is going to call our data fetching functions in order to like get data or like cancel it on navigation, all of that stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think the goal that you're setting out for yourself is a bit like in a field where everyone's kind of like leaving. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. In some sense, I don't really care what the React community does.
I mean, every community, like Solid.js has all of the same primitives. Qwik has all of the same primitives. They want to get routing, data fetching, and all of that stuff as kind of like deep into a framework as possible.
Yeah. I it's not like I'm unaware that people want to do it differently. It's that as much as they do, I want to resist it on purpose because it's stupid. That's my opinion. It's I think that things should declare their own dependencies.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes from modules to components to state, all the way. And there's no reason for it to be different. Like, it's convenient sometimes, but I think it's just a bad mindset. It's like, oh, well, we're going to need it on this page. So from the outside, we're going to provide it for the page. But like, what I want is just for the thing to declare what it wants. And it'd be okay. Like, there's always a question like, what about prefetching data? Because the component hasn't rendered, we don't know what data it needs if it's declaring its own dependency. But you can export something. Like, there's got to be a way, probably a pretty easy way to
but does it have to be
ask the component
observable or like stuff that does more than just load data?
I mean, I don't care.
Oh no.
Declarative in an async way too. I don't care what's being used. Like, I like React query. In React, I don't need RxJS. I'm fine not using RxJS in React.
Mm-hmm.
But I want things to be declared. Yeah. I'm not sure. The best Angular developers love RxJS. All the ones that are active on the Twitter community they're like following Angular and like constantly reading up on best practices and going to conferences. They like at ngconf, I remember like I told somebody I was going to give a talk on RxJS, and they're like they said something like use an async pipe, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, good. And because it's like the full reactive way to use RxJS, and so everybody who's like enthusiastic about Angular is also enthusiastic about RxJS. Most of them. And RxJS is amazing. I don't.
I think it's. I'm not like against RxJS. I'm just saying that. I wonder if your like main use case is going to be like just kind of like built into everything, and like no one kind of like will even like look for it, because like Svelte is doing Svelte kit with all of the craziness that they're doing right now. all of them are kind of like trying to reinvent this like data fetching story.
Yeah, it's hard to describe the value of RxJS with a use case because it's not the real reason I like RxJS. Like canceling requests, I'm actually kind of okay if you don't cancel requests, but that's an example I use because it illustrates something fundamental about RxJS, that a thing can have a dependency on data it needs. That's the fundamental thing. Subscribing. And the fact that that knowledge enables you to cancel requests because something doesn't need it anymore, that's like a side effect. But the thing I like the most is the way of thinking where things can have dependencies that are asynchronous.
Isn't that just like a reactivity?
Not synchronous reactivity. Like Svelte or Solid, you out of the box, like you can't use a signal to say this is that, but a delay of 1 second. You have to create a custom hook. I don't know what they call it in Solid that has like a set timeout and that sets a signal or pushes to it.
I'm actually like not. I not tried that in other frameworks, but there is like reactive framework for React that I kind of like that got me into this thinking. It's called Jotai, and there it's a kind of like first class citizen thing that you can create an atom that has a state, and you can create a like async atom that follows that first one, and the result is going to be like delayed or like waiting for a promise, or you can cancel stuff and all of that. So it's I'm completely following what you're trying to kind of like sell, but there are ways to do the same stuff.
But I mean,
even in
who
React.
cares? Who cares? Like RxJS is a way in React, and Jotai is another way in React. They're all just libraries, and it like in Jotai that would get you like halfway there, but RxJS also comes with a lot of utility operators that are already made for you. So I mean,
I wonder if you can open like a big project and like git grab RxJS operators, and I just never saw that. Like I know that what we used, and I know that once I was kind of like, oh wow, RxJS is so powerful. I wonder if I can write like this complicated thing in it, and like I was lost in like in a day. I already like couldn't understand what I wrote.
So you wanted to do that real quick, and then maybe this can be the last thing.
Okay.
Let's look at like a real world example.
Yeah.
Here it is. Real world example. So this is a popular library, or no, a repo that has all kinds of derivations for different technologies. But anyway, so I'll just walk through. It's Angular, but it should be easy to follow. So this is an article edit component. And this is StateAdapt, so not pure RxJS, but I feel like StateAdapt is almost more pure RxJS than RxJS is because there's like overhead that you have to write with RxJS to get exactly what you want. So there's like two different stores here. One's form state and the other is like the original model. So let's just look at the article. Yeah, let's look here because this file is complicated. So here is, and it's not pure RxJS, so this isn't it's sprinkled with what would you say, annotations for Redux DevTools. Other than that, this is like the RxJS has a subject that you wouldn't pass a string to, but this just annotates a subject. Is the way to think about it. So it's a source. This is an event source. So when you click on a button, you call follow $.next, and that passes well, it triggers an event. You don't pass anything into this. You just call it with empty parentheses. This, what depends on this? Concat map. Yeah, here's a good one. So you can follow, this is like following an author. I created this utility function. Basically, this is the thing that matters. This is converting this observable into a new observable. So this is just the click event for following an author. This is the result from the request to the server. So you pipe and that converts it into whatever you modify it to with operators. And what concat map does is as soon as it's done with the last observable, it starts a new one. So if you click this 3 times quickly, what'll happen is it'll run this function once. This returns an observable of the like success or failure of following the user. And all HTTP requests are just one value and then they complete. When it completes, it will then run it again for the second event. So this concat map, it like concats the whole time segment that happened. Another thing you can do is merge map, and that merges like the asynchronous like tasks together. So it would make those requests immediately as soon as you click follow, and they'd all be happening in parallel. Another one is switch map. Switch map switches, so it would cancel the first one and then go to the next one. So these are, I make an object here that has 3 observables. One is success, one is request, and one is error. And what this does is it creates a store where state is kept. And when these observables emit, it runs this function on the state. So this is declarative state because you have what it is now and you have what it will be forever, all in one place. And so nothing is controlling this externally. This has declared its own state forever. So over time, these will emit, and this will, and these will run. So that changes the state here. And since we have an observable of this state over time, like if you're thinking in React, you don't even think about the challenge of like getting something that's updated. But with a framework that has like permanent components, you need something that's reactive inside of it. So the observable is what that is. So here we're grabbing state from that store, and these are observables. So over in the component, where are we using this? We're not really using this directly. I'm joining stores and creating another derived value. But basically, this is the value that will update over time. So does that help? Is that what you're looking for? Like a real life example?
Right. And let
me go out of the template.
Right. So I think what you're trying to say is that RxJS here allowed you to see kind of like how data is like connected, how everything kind of like depends on something, and all of those reactive utilities allow you to change like behavior. You are changing like one operator, but it changes like how the actual like HTTP requests are made, and like what is the strategy? Do you want to add a retry, or I don't know, like
yeah, and you can add any async you want to this, and it's the main mindset is that this is self-contained. You're not setting state anywhere else. You're modifying what this is. Right. And that's like the key of functional reactive programming.
And this is actually like how you would write Redux observable. Your input is going to be like action, like in Redux terms. It's like action that called the HTTP request, and then you create like actions if it like succeeded or failed. So it will have the same kind of flow, I guess. You will have exactly the same kind of like snippet in Redux observable.
It would look like this. Sorry, that's a spec file. My bad. It'll look like this. You take an action, you return an action, right?
Yeah.
It's a stream of actions. Yeah. NGX copied Redux, just so you know. So the best way to understand
is it like Angular code?
Yeah, this is Angular.
Okay, so
it's
so you have Redux observable instead of Angular.
yeah, basically that's what useEffect is. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, but I don't like it. I never use it because this, like everything that's happening here, is determining something somewhere else.
Right. So it comes from like the boss, and you don't control it.
It comes from what? Sorry,
like a boss, message boss.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Actions are just like messages on a boss.
Yeah, and then you return an action, but and this is a problem with Redux in general, is the reducer doesn't know what's dispatching the actions, and so the reducer, the state is not declarative. It's semi-declarative because it has an interface like the action, and anything that dispatches it, will end up affecting the store. But to me, that's like an indirect way of like calling the reducer directly. It's just a little bit of indirection. With StateAdapt, like the store itself is listening to the specific event source.
So what's the difference between event source and like action name something?
Well, if you are looking at the reducer and you try to click to the definition of the action, you're going to see a potential action. Like you're not going to see any real source of actions.
I don't understand. So if I have an action that is called Qwik hero or something, right? There is like a big button on the website, and if I in TypeScript, if I do like go to definitions, I will find somewhere like action creators dot Qwik hero. Isn't that the same? Instead of Qwik hero dot next.
That's the same thing with all imperative code, though, because if you have like let's say you have like a class, and you have a property on the class, and then you have a method that sets that property somehow, you can still like find all references and see everywhere that's setting it, but it's still shared mutable state. So it's still like, if you look at the original talk, I think we talked about this when we talked last. You watched the talk where they introduced Flux. Mm-hmm. The main goal they were trying to accomplish was internalizing control. So you don't leave it up to anything to update your state. You're listening to events and determining new state. So all the state logic is in one place. And Redux accomplishes half of that because all your state logic is in one place. But anything can can dispatch that action. So it's not in control of what is updating it, because anything can dispatch the action, and you have to find where all the dispatches are. If it's reactive, like full, like end to end, the store itself listens to the event sources. And like even in what I have with StateAdapt, it's not fully end to end because I've defined a source as its independent thing. It's not actually coming from the DOM. The DOM has to push to that source. But there is a framework called Cycle.js. Have you ever heard of it?
Probably. I don't remember what it does. I think it
actually
like
is full stack
a bacon or something.
Bacon. Bacon is like an RxJS alternative, isn't it?
Isn't cycle.js the same?
Cycle.js is like React. Well, it's not like React. It's a framework for rendering UI.
Oh, I see.
But at the very start, instead of what I have here, like with new source equals, and then the DOM has to push to that, and then the source doesn't know where its events are coming from. With Cycle.js, you actually select the DOM
Yeah, I see.
and listen to clicks, So it is actually end-to-end reactive.
Uh-huh.
And I would like to get there eventually. And I think you can do that with React, because with JSX, you can define the button above where it's actually used, and then you can listen to it there.
Yeah.
I
think,
like in code below. But yeah.
This is a bit of kind of like semantics or like definitions, like difference in definitions, all of that stuff. It's like I kind of understand what you mean, but for me it doesn't really like makes a big difference. Or the same thing is like framework versus library, or like separation of concerns. Everyone is kind of like separating their concerns and like at different angles. And it's like, I kind of see what you mean, but I don't see the clear cut, okay, this is like the thing that is like better in every way.
Yeah, it's not evident in a small feature, but it's just like when React hooks were introduced. It's a similar concept. And by the way, like reactivity, it has conquered DOM updates, and it's starting to conquer more stuff. Like this is inevitable, in my opinion. It's going to move this direction. Like React Query is one example of React developers starting to prefer declarative async code more, and it will keep going. Like I think it's like a train. One car is off the edge. This is a more natural way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
Like when React hooks were introduced, I remember like someone color coded by feature.
Yeah.
And then before and then after, like all your feature code was in one place.
Yeah.
It's just like that, but more. And there's a question, like, because they are symmetrical. Like in imperative code, you have a callback function that's updating many things. And so you can highlight each of those things a different color depending on what it's updating. But you can also color code it by when it's executing. And in the reactive version that's listening to the different event sources, you can color code those different colors based on when they run. So imperative code organizes your code by when it runs, and reactive code organizes it by what it's controlling. And at different times, you're going to be concerned with different things. So with reactive code, in the long run, it's better because in a complex feature, it's hard to see this with simple features, but in a complex feature, all of your logic is in one place. It's a lot easier to avoid bugs that way. But the issue is if you are concerned about what's happening at an instant in time, your code isn't together anymore. It's scattered across features. So that's why Redux DevTools is valuable, because it allows you to look at a piece of state and how it has changed over time. And then you can look at an instance in time and see all the places updated. So in my opinion, there's like a very, it's almost like chicken and egg type of situation where in order for people to think more reactively, they need better developer tools. In order to get better developer tools, you need more people interested in thinking reactively. But we are inching towards it on all fronts. And I think that in the future, we will have apps that are pretty much declarative, but with really good dev tools that let us track things over time.
Yeah, you will probably like
so that's my opinion.
Jedi supports like Redux style debug tools.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. Oh, actually, good. Like speaking of separation of concerns, I really liked the last stream that Ryan did about Marko. It's a huge stream. I'm only talking about like kind of like I don't know, like first hour or so.
Okay.
Basically, like Marko is really kind of like they're not limited by JSX or like following the React model like Qwik is. So, and even like Solid is. They are trying to kind of like reinvent the language. So the thing, the style of code that you write there is that your kind of like state effects and like render function could be written basically like in the same block. You don't have to do it separately like in React. And so difference between like a component and like part of the component is not big. You just like select these 3 lines, cut it out, and it's a component. Or if you put it inside of like some other components, it works exactly the same. So it's really like it encapsulates the whole life cycle, I guess, of all of the data, of all of the effects that should happen, all of the like render function that should happen. So I really think that you will kind of like enjoy it, and like exactly in a way of like you can see like how everything is controlled, I guess in one place. Anyway,
Cool.
it's
I will
probably
have to check it out.
It's
The
probably
one
too
thing
late
to check. Yeah, last thing I'll say. The one thing you just have to check to determine if something is reactive is color code by what state is being controlled by the code. And if all the code with the same color is together, then it's declarative.
I see.
So yeah, I'll have to watch and see if it's declarative.
Okay, it's kind of like too late. We have to finish this. Yeah, thank you so much for this call. It was really interesting to find someone who is like I don't know, like trying all of these new frameworks and shares. Your videos are really interesting because like you talk all over like every decision that you kind of like want to try or like every every idea want to try and all of that stuff. So I really kind of like enjoyed that. And maybe let's do this again sometime. And now we have to go sleep.
Yeah, thanks for like initializing this. I got a lot of value out of this, thinking through Qwik and RxJS more. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, great. Bye bye.
All right, see ya.